Hello everyone, welcome to Learn German Online with Schneider Institute. Today we're going to be talking about wo und de compound. Now this topic doesn't actually exist in English language, so I don't really have a translation for it. So we're going to look at how this wo and de compound works in German. Now one thing you also have to know is that this wo and de compound simply helps you avoid repetition. I'm going to explain that as we go on, and it obviously helps help you make your sentence way shorter. Now I have here on the screen: Ich freue mich darauf, träumt davon, worauf wartest du. If you notice here, you see we have the day word. You also here we also have the day word and a preposition. Here as well, we'll have the day word and a preposition. So we're going to try to see how this works in the sentence, how this came to be, and how you apply this in the German sentence. Now, in the next slide here, we have a list of verbs in German. You have to know that this wo and de compound work with the preposition that is fixed to a verb. In the previous class, I've taught you about verbs with fixed prepositions. Now, for you to use the wo and de compound properly, you have to know the verbs and the fixed preposition that goes with the verb. Like I said earlier on, sich freuen auf, which means to look forward to. So when you know the preposition auf that goes with the verb freuen, of course, we also have sich freuen über, then you can simply know when to use the wo compound or the de compound. Here I have a list of verbs. I have suchen nach, I have fragen nach, bitten beneiden träumen von. I've talked about this already in our previous class. Sprechen über, sich freuen auf, glauben an. All these are verbs and they are fixed preposition. Recall I told you that there is no other way to learn the preposition that is fixed to a verb aside from memorizing the verbs. All right, so let's look at what we have here now. Here I'm going to try to make you understand how this wo and de compound works for animate object and inanimate object. How do you use them for animate object and inanimate object? And here firstly I have the inanimate object. Now when you're dealing with inanimate object, you're making a statement and the object of the sentence is inanimate, then here is the structure you have to use. Note, we have the de compound, which obviously is represented with DA, and here you have the plus R, and here you have the preposition. Now, when do we add this R we're seeing here, as well as what we have here? Now, this can only be introduced when the preposition starts with a vowel, the vowel A, O, U. Yeah? So that is when you introduce the R. But when it's simply a consonant, then you don't have to introduce the R, which is what I simply explained here. So here we have de plus R plus prepositions that start with the vowel. You can see here A, you can see A, and you can see A. There are other examples as well, über and so on. So it applies. Now here we have de and then the preposition that started with what? The consonant, which is V here and N. The same thing applies to the wo compound. When you have the wo word and then the preposition starts with the vowels, then you have to introduce R. But if it doesn't start with the vowels, then you simply ignore it. Now the next slide we have for animate object. Now for animate object, in this case you don't use the de or the wo compound. You simply use the preposition and a pronoun, which in this case it can be the preposition aus as an example, and then pronoun like z, s, depending on the case in the sentence. Of course, in the case of aus, then we're likely going to be looking at the dative word form. So let's look at the next slide. Now here I have a statement with the inanimate object, and here it says, Ich freue mich auf das Konzert. Ich freue mich auf das Konzert. In this case, I have the inanimate object, which is what? Das Konzert. Das Konzert. Now, how do I apply the de compound to this particular statement to make it shorter? Yes, how do I do that? Or to avoid what? Repetition. Now, in this case, I can simply say Ich freue mich darauf. Now, the only time when I can introduce the they compound to a statement is when I've already made this statement beforehand and I want to avoid continuous repetition of a particular, the object of the sentence. That is when I can simply introduce the they compound, which is what I just did here. So if I'm talking to someone and we're talking about the concert and then I want to tell the person I am looking forward to it, instead of me saying I am looking forward to the concert, I can simply say I am looking forward to it, which is why I simply use the they word and then the preposition that goes with the verb freuen in this case here. And recall I told you R is introduced when the preposition starts with a vowel. Now let's look at the next one we have. Now here we have a statement with an animate object. It says, Ich freue mich auf meine Frau. I am looking forward to my Frau. More like I'm looking forward to meeting my wife. Here, I have an animate object, die Frau. Of course, the possessive form, which is meine Frau. If I'm to write this sentence using the preposition and pronoun, as I told you earlier on, I can't use the they compound in this case. No. The reason for this is because the object I'm dealing with is an animate object, as I told you earlier on. So all I have to do here is say, Ich freue mich auf. Recall, this means her. So I'm looking forward to seeing her. So I can't use the darauf in this case because this is an animate object. So I'll simply say, Ich freue mich auf sie. Now the next slide we have is for inanimate object. Inanimate object. And in this case, we're looking at what? The question with the inanimate object. Here it says, Ich ärgere mich über die Arbeit. I'm talking to my colleague, I'm like, oh, I am angry about this, about the work, or I'm pissed about the work. Now, here, if someone were to ask me a question, what are you angry about? What are you angry about? Note that the verb we have here first is sich ärgern über. Sich ärgern über, which means to be angry about. This is obviously a reflexive verb, and here you can see the reflexive pronoun. Now, what are you angry about? Someone is trying to ask me this question. Now, how do you ask this question? Knowing fully well that this verb is the verb to be angry, it has a reflexive form and a fixed preposition. Now, look closely here. Recall I told you, vo plus r for preposition that starts with vowel. So here we have the same thing here. The umlaut u also applies as well. So we have vo, r, and then über. So I can no longer say was ärgern Sie. No, it doesn't really apply that way. So what I can do here is simply put the vo word, the r, and then the preposition here. Then the next thing I have is the verb conjugated to agree with the subject of the sentence. And obviously, I have the reflexive form of the verb, which is the subject rather, which is do. So we have worüber ärgerst du dich. Recall, I simply took the preposition plus the vo, putting it together. Recall, r has to come in between because the preposition starts with the vowel. And here we have ärgern, the verb to be angry, and we have the reflexive form of the subject of the sentence. So we have worüber ärgerst du dich, which means what are you angry about? What are you angry about? Now let's look at another practical example here. Now here I made two sentences, one without the they compound and the next one with the they compound. Recall I told you that this vo and they compound help you make your sentence shorter or help you avoid repetition. Here I said, Ich vermisse unsere gemeinsame Zeit zusammen, which means I'm missing our time together. I'm missing our time together. I'm missing the time we spent together. Now the next sentence now says, Ich träume mich oft von unserer gemeinsamen Zeit. Recall, in this case, this is a dative preposition. That is why we're seeing the dative word case, unserer gemeinsamen Zeit. Now here, it says, Ich träume oft von unserer gemeinsamen Zeit. Let's look at the second sentence. Still the same thing, but we have little words change here. Now here says, Ich vermisse unsere gemeinsame Zeit. Recall I told you that this day compound is always making reference to what? A statement or something that's been said beforehand. And this one now says here, Ich träume oft davon, which means I always think about it. I often think about it. That is what we have here. So instead of me to repeat this unsere gemeinsamen Zeit, I simply use the day plus the preposition that goes with the verb träumen, to dream. You get that? So I don't have to repeat this again. So if you see this sentence here, I have to shorten this sentence here by simply using the day compound and the what? The preposition that goes with the verb. Now let's look at another example. Here it says, Liebe ist ein schönes Thema. Love is a beautiful topic. Wir sprechen oft über Liebe. Love is a beautiful topic. We often speak about love. More like we often talk about love. Here, I don't have to repeat what? The love again. Because in the first statement, I've already said love. So, in this case, I can simply say we often speak about it. Now, how do I do that? I have it here. Liebe ist ein schönes Thema. Exactly what we have here. Remember, there's always a point of reference, right? Good. Now, the second one now says, Wir sprechen oft darüber. Wir sprechen oft darüber. Here, I have the preposition über. Now, recall, we need the compound, the day compound, and we need the preposition to shorten this sentence here. So, instead of me saying über Liebe, I'll simply have the day compound R introduced in between because of the vowel here. So, wir sprechen oft darüber. And let's look at other examples. Here, I also have the animate object. It says here, Ich ärgere mich über meinen Chef. Ich ärgere mich über meinen Chef, which means, obviously, I am angry about my chef. I am angry at my chef. I'm angry at my chef. I'm literally translating this to English. So, I'm angry at my chef. I'm mad at my chef. In this case, we'll have sich ärgern über. Now, this same sentence, I want to ask someone a question. I see one of my colleagues angry, and I want to ask the person, what are you angry about? Or who are you mad at? In this case, I would have to use über wenn ärgerst du dich. Look closely. Here, you notice I am using a W word, which is gotten from wir, who. And here it's wenn because I have the preposition über, which is an accusative preposition. We have wir, who, which is nominative. We have wenn, which is accusative. And we have them, which is dative. So in this case, I have wenn, which is accusative. So I have über, wenn, ärgerst du dich. Let's look at this again. Here, I have the preposition über, right? Yes. And over here, I have wenn. If I want to ask a question referring to an animate object, I can simply say über wenn for animate object. So if this were to be a dative preposition, I'm going to be saying, for example, träumen von. I will say von wem, which is W-E-M. But because it's an accusative preposition, I simply use the word wenn. Über wenn ärgerst du dich. Okay, let's go over to the next slide. Here, I have the animate object again. It says, Ich träume von meinem Bruder. Like I said earlier on, here we have the dative preposition as such. I have to be considering the dative case for the object of the sentence, direct object of the sentence, and then over to the question. Here, as I was saying earlier on, we have von wem. Remember I told you, wem goes for dative, for animate object. Von wem. If it were to be the accusative case, like we talked about previously, it's going to be von wen. So, von wem träumst du, which means, who are you dreaming about? Von wem träumst du. So here is the dative case because of the dative preposition that is fixed to the verb. All right, now I want to look at the next slide now. Here, it will have the vo compound and will also have a response. Now look at this. It says, Wonach suchst du? This means, what are you looking for? What are you searching for? Wonach suchst du? Wonach suchst du? Which means, what are you searching for? Note that in this case, we simply have what? The inanimate word form. If we are to be animate, I'm going to be saying, nach wem suchst du? So this question is purely in the inanimate word, is purely an inanimate word question. Wonach suchst du? If it were to be the animate object, I'm going to be saying nach wem, because nach is obviously a dative case now. Nach wem suchst du? Now look at the response here. The response here says, Ich suche nach dem Schlüssel. Ich suche nach dem Schlüssel, which simply means I am looking for the key. I am looking for the key. Now, if I've mentioned the key earlier on, I would simply be saying Ich suche danach. Ich suche danach, simply replacing this with what? The day compound. But since I've not mentioned my search for the key before now, I will have to state what I am looking for. Then subsequent conversations that has to do with me searching for the key, then I would have to say what? Danach, or depending on the verb I'm using in that case. Okay, so now I'm giving you an assignment, and the assignment is write in the comment section 3 vo questions and 3 day questions. I've already given you a list of verbs earlier on. 3 vo questions, of course you can see that here, and 3 day statement as well. So try to use any of these verbs here to make the sentences. Simply write in the comment section. All right, so I want to believe you've understood how the vo and day compound works in German. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram at Schneider Institute. Okay, vielen Dank alle und auf Wiederschauen.